We will be talking about how we built a simple billing system with Genserver, and we're just talking about the Genserver because that is what made our this application seamless. Our agenda for today, we'll talk about the background, how we came about the problem we were facing, solution, and implementation. So the first two parts are more of a story. So be prepared for a story, and the last part is the implementation, where we are going to get a little bit technical. Um, Jackie, would you want to share the background?
Yes, sure. Thank you so much, Linda. Um, I'm sure everyone has bills to pay. And when I talk about bills, I mean um, there's a service that you would like to consume, and definitely for any service consumed, a payment has to be made. A payment has to be done. That's what briefly I consider as a bill. Now, um, some of you may agree with me that there are cases where you may forget to pay your bills either for 1 month or for 2 weeks or for whatever duration that may be. I would like just to give you a short story about my, I don't want to call it my forgetfulness, but a bit of experience with how I'm managing my bills. I will take you back to a time like last year. Yeah, that time of primary school. And by that time, my daughter was not born, and I used to live in a bit of a small house with everything that I needed. Um, the landlord was good enough. He used to provide water, electricity, and garbage collection. He used to get all that for us. So the only bills I needed to like keep track of was my rent and my health insurance bill. Fast forward to when my daughter was born and I got a new job and working remotely, I needed to move out due to a few factors put in place. And my new place was a bit different from my initial place. In this new place, I had more bills to pay. And when I mean what I mean by more bills is I needed to pay for my own water, I needed to pay for my own electricity, and my rent and health insurance and a few entertainment subscriptions. Now, any parent will tell you that when there is a newborn, the newborn takes priority. And it just comes automatically. No one lets you know, but it just comes automatically. So months went by. The first month went by, the second month went by, the third month went by. And I remember one fateful day, I wanted to get some water, and I went to the tap. There was no water. And I was thinking to myself, I mean, in this neighborhood, it's known not to have water shortage. What could have happened? So I remember, giving it 1 day time just to make sure that maybe it was a technical error and it will be solved within that day. But the first day went by, then the second day I thought, what, let me just do a follow-up. So I went and asked my neighbor. I mean, and he told me that he had water for like that whole day. So I just decided to do a bit of a follow-up on it. And I just realized that I hadn't paid my water bill in like 3 months. And I mean, they just came and disconnected my water. And anyone who has had to have such a problem will tell you that it is quite hectic following along with the company which deals with water. So you do have to pay a penalty for having to miss all the months. And you also have to pay a bit of amount for the plumber to come and to connect the water back for you, because basically it is your fault that you forgot to pay. And that was the first encounter, and I was like, you know what, I mean, it's the first one, let's see how life goes on. Fast forward to a bit of 5 months, my daughter got sick, and I remember when I was getting out of the house, I had my health insurance card at hand and my phone and a few documents I needed. Then we went to the hospital. She was treated and everything, and during the time of making the payment, I handed over my insurance card just to ensure that they do pay, they will use it to make the payment. But they told me that the insurance company had declined to pay for it. And I remember really getting shocked when that happened. So I managed to do a few phone calls and I sorted the bill and went home. So the first thing what I did when I got home is I just logged into my health insurance dashboard and tried to check what could have happened. And again, I had not paid my bill the second time. Now, for all health insurance have different ways of dealing with people who don't pay on time. So for my case, you do pay half the amount you pay for every month that you do not pay. So sitting down and calculating all the amount, it was huge amount of money, and it pained me so much. And I said, you know, I mean, I need to figure out a way to just ensure that this doesn't happen again. Linda, would you like to add anything onto that?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't think it's just you. I think it's the fatigue with becoming a mom and just not being able to think about all this build. I also had a similar experience when my son was born. He was about, I think, 3 months, and we forgot to pay electricity, and we didn't have electricity for 2 days just because we forgot. And at that point, when Jackie shared this with me, I just remembered all these other things that I used to forget. And I said, it would be nice if we would have something like a reminder or something that just pays our bills like automatically. And so our solution is called AutoBill. Um, AutoBill is a service that just automatically pays your bills on the due date, and it uses your preferred method of payment. So this might not sound like a huge deal if you live in North America or in Europe, because you have all these service providers who give you an option of automatic payment. It's a little bit different in Kenya, and I would like to say also Africa at large, but we'll just talk about Kenya because that is where we live and that's what we know. We pay most of our bills using uh, mobile payments, and that's something called M-Pesa. And with that, I don't think many people have like bank accounts so that they can pay their bills. I have my own bank account so that I can save. Any, do you pay your bills with a bank account?
No, really. I mean, for all of the ones that I know, I mean, some of them I usually even pay cash
Yeah.
because sometimes it's not even possible to have M-Pesa available for such services.
Yeah, so most of our services we pay with M-Pesa, which is something that you authorize from your phone. And most companies have like we call it Lipa na M-Pesa, but that's kind of like their little bank where you put your where if you pay for your services, it reflects on that place, and it's almost instant. So that's how we do that. And how is Autobill going to do? So you create an account and then you create a payment, no, a preferred payment method, and you create your bills. And when you're creating your bills, we want to know how your amount, the due date that you're supposed to be paying, and the payment information, like where is the payment going to, like if you're paying to we talked about Lipa and M-Pesa. Lipa and M-Pesa has some components that we need, some information that we need for us to pay the bills correctly, and of course your preferred method of payment. So that's the study side of how we got there. So we'll talk about the implementation. So the one thing that made us be able to do all these things, we use Genserver, and Genserver is basically an Elixir process. And we use Genserver because we wanted to take advantage of some of its abilities, like the ability to be able to do tasks repetitively and have code ability for it to store state, store and track state. That is one thing that we were really concerned about. And concurrency, of course. Jackie, would you like to, maybe you can share more about the Gen server and why we decided to talk about it, to use the Gen server?
Uh, I will just add one more point. That is as we wanted to do a synchronous task. That is a task which we need to tell the server to do this task, and we have to wait for the results. So it basically depends on what task you would like to use in Genserver. But Genserver gives us ability to either use to do tasks synchronously or asynchronously. Up to you, Linda. Okay. Uh, um, Sorry about that. So, Linda mentioned that a Genserver is a process. So Genserver is a process, and it's like any other process in Elixir. So just a quick overview of what a process is. A process is just a basic unit of concurrency in Elixir. This is not, we will not talk much about processes. Uh, so I'll leave it at that. For the next two slides, we have, let me call it a fun questions for the audience. So for the next two slides, they do contain a GIF of a code which has been executed in the terminal. So I want you to look keenly into both of them and just let me know what both of them are trying to depict. Linda, you would be in a good position to just give the time frame of showing each of the GIF, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this is the first slide. Just have a look at it, and at this point, you can just tell us what, not now, but when during our Q&A.
Do we need to give hints or should I just
Oh no,
just not?
let's not.
Okay, it's fine.
So this is the first
Okay.
slide. This is the second slide. So in these two slides, we are leveraging on some Genserver functions that is Genserver abilities, and would like to see if you could tell the difference between the two, what one is doing and what another is doing. So this is the second slide, and back to the first slide again. Okay, so let's look at our Genserver. So I'm just going to explain how we got to our Genserver and the most basic things, and then Jackie will go on and dive a little bit deeper. When when you want to use the Genserver functions, the one important thing you have to think of is like there's usually the client side and there's the server side. If you get to understand the differences, that is going to make your work a little bit easier, and it's going to help you understand Genserver in a better way. And one important thing you have to do is you have to have this line use Genserver for you to be able to use the behaviors of a Genserver. Without that line, you basically don't have a Genserver. You can't use all those functions. So the client side usually sends a request to the server side for it to implement, and depending on the request the client side sends to the server, we know if we will get a response or we will not get a response. So the client will always initiate the process of starting the server, and when it starts the server, we get a response which is an okay or an error. And yeah, Jackie, probably you can dive in deeper with more of the things that we were using, more of the functions of the client and the server side that we have used.
Thank you so much, Linda. Just to add on to a bit of when you're starting server. So basically for our problem statement, sorry, go ahead. Having a problem statement in mind that we need to process payments and we need to do this in such a way that in case you forget to pay them, in case would be the wrong word, but we just need a way of paying our bills and ensuring that we won't forget them and we cannot go without our services. Quick thing that Linda mentioned, that the client has to talk to our server when starting the server. So one way of doing it is you could give it the state. The state is basically what would your Gen server like to store? So in our scenario, I would possibly give it the amount to pay, the phone number to pay, and other things that I will need to be sent when making the payment. So first things first is our server is up. Now we need to make the payment. What's the best way to do it? In my scenario, I would love to do it synchronously. So I would use the function genserver.call. If you prefer to do a task asynchronously, then you could call the function genserver.cast. Sorry, yes. So what genserver.call does, it will make a request to the server. And at the server side, we do have callbacks. Callbacks are functions that are invoked when maybe a message is sent or something is triggered. So the handle call function is in this case triggered, and we tell it just process our payments. And after you're done with processing our payments, schedule the next payment that will be done, and then return for me a response. So when you check at the return value, we do have the first atom, then the second and the third. So the second is the response which we get after the payment is processed. So this response could be the payment went on successfully or the payment failed, right? And then the third attribute is whatever I want, whatever state I want the server to still keep as it goes on. So at this point, I have ensured that my payment has gone through, and at least I need to schedule the next monthly payment. So how do I schedule my next monthly payment? This can be done. So this is basically like a scheduler. You can use whatever time you feel free, and you can use whatever functions. There are a lot of alert functions available to do this, but preferably my preference would be the function process.send after. What this does is it will send a message to the same server, tell it to do the next payment, and it will need to send this message after a specific time. So in my scenario, my specific time is after like next month in milliseconds or whichever time I feel comfortable. So assuming our time for the next payment has elapsed, so it will send a message to the server, and the server will invoke, I think this is incorrect, and handle info. I think this is a duplicate of the first slide, sorry. This will invoke an handle info function, where the handle info function will call the first function for process payment, which is basically this one. So it will again call the server to make the payment and still schedule for the next payment and be able to return a response for me. So with the response, I need to know, I will be able to figure out, you know what, this is the payment which went through, this is the payment which didn't go through. So a bit explanation on why we are making each bill to be paid individually is because if, for example, I have 10 bills and I'm not doing them concurrently, then in case one of the bill fails, then it means that the rest that are after that bill will never be paid. So I mean, I do not want that to happen. So the best way to do it is to ensure that each of the bill will be paid individually. Whatever fails, it doesn't affect the payment of the other processes, of the other payment process. Vida, would you like to add anything onto that?
No, but I would like to know if anyone has any questions, because that's the end of our brief presentation, and we are excited to see if you actually saw a difference in the slides that we showed, and if you have any questions for us.